Okay everyone, it's time for subtracting fractions. So we got our important steps here. These are going to look familiar. When you're subtracting fractions, you must find a common denominator, just like when you're adding. When you're subtracting fractions, you cannot cross cancel or ninja slice, just like when you're adding fractions. And when you're subtracting fractions, you may switch mixed fractions to improper, but you don't have to, just like adding fractions. The rules are exactly the same, okay? So let's get right to it. The first one, again, is a lovely question because you need common denominators, and you've got them, common denominators. So what happens with subtraction? Same as adding. You keep the denominator the same, and this time, rather than adding, you're going to subtract. 7 minus 4 is 3. We're done. Oh, wait a minute. We're not done. How come? This is not in lowest terms, is it? What's something you can divide 3 by and also 9 by? You could divide them both by 3. So if you divide them both by 3, you'll get 1 over 3. Alright, I'll do it one time. I could divide this by 3 and divide this by 3, and that equals 1 over 3. Okay, the next one, we do not have common denominators, so we need to get the common denominator. Common denominator of 3 and 6. Well, does 3 go into 6? It does, so I know the common denominator is 6. 6 minus 6. The second one is already over 6, so that's good. The first one, what do I have to multiply 3 by to get 6? Got to multiply it by 2. What I do to the bottom, you also do the top. So we've got 2 times 3 is 6 on the bottom, perfect, and 2 times 2 is 4 on the top. And when I subtract, I get 3, 4 minus 1 is 3, keep the denominator the same, 6. Done. Whoa, another one I can put in lowest terms. What can I divide 3 and 6 by? Again, I can divide by 3. 3 divided by 3 is 1. 6 divided by 3 is 2. Oh, I've got my circling back here. So there's our answer. Only answer acceptable here. If you put 3 over 9, you would not get full marks. Only answer acceptable here. If you put 3 over 6, you would not get full marks. We want them in lowest terms. Alright, next one. Looks the same, these two questions, but the brackets make a big difference. So for the first one, we have subtraction and we have addition. And when you have subtraction, addition, and bedmass, do you remember? They're equal to each other. So you just go left to right. So the first thing you should actually do is 3/4 minus 1/8. Get that answer. And then after that, you're going to add the 1/2. Now it actually turns out you can get common denominators for all of these and do it in one step. But I'm going to do it this way, just to make sure everyone's super clear. So I'm going to focus just on this bit right now. So what's the common denominator of 4 and 8? It's 8. So 8 minus 8. Second one's already 8. What do I have to multiply the 4 by to get 8? Multiply it by 2 and do the same to the top. So you get 6. 6 minus 1 is 5, and it's over 8. So now what we're going to do is we're going to add the 1/2. Okay, we're adding. That was last day's video. We need common denominators again. Common denominator of 8 and 2? 8. So the first one's good with the 5. The second one, what do I have to multiply 2 by to get 8? 4. Do the same to the top. You get 1 times 4, which is 4. Now we can get our answer. Add the top, you get 9. Leave the bottom the same, you get 8. That's great. That's in lowest terms. That's fine. Or if you want, how many 8s go into 9? 1. How much is left over? 1. Keep the denominator the same. Either one of these answers will work. Okay, with this question it's different, right? Since there's brackets, the first thing you have to actually do is 1/8 plus 1/2. So why am I writing it down? Let me just highlight it faster. So we have to do this first. So let's get that answer. We're going to get common denominators, which is 8. So we're going to have something over 8 plus something over 8. First one's easy. It's already 1 over 8. This one, what do you have to multiply the 2 by to get 8? 4. So do the same to the top. 1 times 4 is 4. So now we can add. 1/8 plus 4/8 is 5/8. Keep the denominator the same, add the 1 and 4. Now here's a huge problem for some people. They now go, oh, I have to subtract 3 over 4. Is that okay? Absolutely not. When you subtract, order matters. So since it's 3/4 minus the highlighted bit, you need to do 3/4 minus this highlighted bit. Well, it's not highlighted, but that's the answer to the highlighted bit. Okay, it must be done in this order. Now it's subtraction question. We need to get common denominators. Guess what it is? 8 again. So we're going to have something over 8 minus something over 8. Obviously the 5 there. What do we have to multiply the 4 by? By 2. Do the same to the top. You end up with 6 over 8. If you subtract this, you get 1/8. Hey look, this one's 1 1/8 and this one's just 1/8. Just a coincidence that there's 1/8 in each one. It doesn't mean anything. Don't think there's some pattern here that always works out when you put brackets in there. Okay, so there you go. Now we're going to go to the ones that are mixed fractions. So for these ones, I have the same thing written twice here, and twice here. And you know why, if you watched the last video. I'm going to try to convince you to keep it mixed. So this column on the left will be the, I never did this last time with the adding video, but this will be the switch to improper column. And this column over here is the keep mixed column. Okay, so most people do this, and I'm going to try to convince you that this can be a good method over here. Alright, if you're going to switch to improper, we go 5 times 6 is 30, plus 5 is 35 over 6, pretty big number, minus 2 times 12 is 24, plus 1 is 31 over 12, and just like the other side of the page, we got to get a common denominator. Common denominator is 6 and 12. Well, does 6 go into 12? Yes, it does. So our common denominator is 12. Okay, second one's no problem because it's already over 12. First one, what do we have to multiply 6 by to get 12? 2. Do the same at the top. 2 times 35. It's not too bad. It's 70. And this is a little tough. Obviously the denominator is going to be 12. 70 minus 31 equals 39. Now, this is not an acceptable answer. This is not in lowest terms. And it's kind of hard to spot with big numbers like this. This is another problem with not keeping it mixed. You sometimes get these big numbers that are hard to work with, but they're also hard to put in lowest terms. You can divide both of these by 3. 39 by 3 is 13, and 12 by 3 is 4. That's an acceptable answer. The other acceptable answer, 4 goes into 13 3 times, and there's 1 left over, so 3 1/4. Either one of these is a full marks. This one is not full marks. Okay, let's do it again, but let's keep it mixed. It's very similar to what we did for addition. So we're going to keep the 5, keep the 2. We want to get common denominators, and our denominators are 6 and 12. Well, that's what they were here too, and we found that the common denominator was 12. So let's do that. We're going to have our 5, keep the 5, and something over 12, minus 2 and something over 12. Well, this one stays, whoa, that's a 12. This one stays exactly the same, 2 and 7 over 12. But this one, you need to multiply the 6 by 2 to get 12. So you do the same to the top, and you get 10. And you can guess what happens, right? You're going to subtract the big numbers. 5 minus 2 is 3. And then you're going to subtract the fractions. 10 twelfths minus 7 twelfths. Keep the denominator the same. 10 minus 7 is 3. Hey, those look different. What happened? Because 3 twelfths is not in lowest terms. Now don't do this. Glad this question came up. People do this all the time. Oh, it pains me, but I do take marks off. I'm sorry, but I do. They do this. 3 and 3 over 12, and I have to put this in lowest terms. So I'm going to divide top and bottom by 3. So I get 3 divided by 3 is 1. 12 divided by 3 is 4. Done. Awesome. What's the problem? You missed the 3. You can't just drop the 3 out of the whole thing. That is not fair. So the answer is actually big 3 and then that 1/4 that you just figured out. Okay, this is totally great answer. This is not a good answer. Of course, if you wanted to switch this to improper, you could. It's kind of weird, but you could. I actually prefer improper, so you know how to do that. 3 times 4 is 12 plus 1 is 13 over 4, exactly like you got here. Okay, so again, when you do that, you probably think, hey, mixed was easier. Everyone should do mixed. There is a reason people don't like to do mixed, and it's this sort of question here, because you're going to have to borrow. So let's do it, first of all, the more popular way, which is to switch to improper. You won't have to borrow if you do it this way. 10 times 3 is 30, plus 1 is 31 over 3, minus 4 times 5 is 20, plus 4 is 24 over 5. And we have to get a lowest common denominator. Lowest common denominator of 3 and 5 is 15. Now, this is the problem with making them improper. We get big numbers. What do you multiply 3 by to get 15? 5. Do the same to the top. What do you multiply 5 by to get 15? 3. Do the same to the top. So you have to do 5 times 3 is 15, perfect, and 5 times 31. Uh-oh, it's getting pretty hard. That's 155. 5 times 3 is 15, good, and 24 times 3, whew, 72. Now we can subtract. Denominator stays the same, it's 15. And 155 minus 72, that is 83. And that's good. I don't think you can put that in those terms. I'd be happy with that. Or you can ask yourself, how many 15s go into 83? Well, 5 do. That gets us up to 75. And you'd still have 8 left over. So 5 and 8/15 would be your answer. Okay, let's try this by keeping it mixed. So we immediately look at the denominators and figure out what the lowest common denominator is. And it's 15. So I'm going to have 10 and something over 15 minus 4 and something over 15. What do I have to multiply that 3 by? Got to multiply it by 5, do the same to the top. What do I have to multiply the 5 by? 3, do the same to the top. So on the top here, 1 times 5 is 5. On the top here, 4 times 3 is 12. Looks good so far, right? Now stop. Can you spot what the problem is? The problem is, once you go to subtract the fraction part here, you're going to have 5/15 take away 12/15. Wait a minute, 5/15 take away 12/15, it's going to go into negatives. So you're going to have 10 minus 4 is 6, and then some kind of negative 7/15. What? How do we do this? So here's how you borrow, and this is why some people don't like this. You're going to borrow from the 10, so the 10 is now going to become a 9. And you're going to add 1 to this. But it's not like this. If you put a 1 there, it means that you'd be talking about tenths. You're not talking about tenths, you're talking about 15ths. So let me ask you this question. How many 15ths make up a whole? Too hard? Let me ask you this question. How many thirds make up a whole? 3/3 make up a whole, right? If I cut something into thirds, it takes 3 of them to make a whole. How many quarters make up a whole? 4/4 make up a whole. How many eighths make up a whole? 8/8 make up a whole. So how many 15ths make up a whole? 15/15. Okay, so when I borrow from the 10, I have 1 I'm borrowing, I'm adding 15/15 to this. And 15/15 plus 5/15 equals 20/15. I know, you probably didn't like that explanation. So here's a quick little way to do it. You cross this out and drop it down 1, and then you add these two together. 15 plus 5 is 20. That's your new number. And now you're good to go. Now you can do this no problem. 9 minus 4 is 5. And 20/15 take away 12/15. Well, the 15 stays the same. 20 minus 12 is 8. And you're done. And that's exactly what we had here. So if you can get the borrowing step, I think it is definitely easier. I'm just going to put a fraction here. 7 and 9/11. Let's say you needed to borrow from this. How would you do it? You would borrow from the 7, so it would become a 6. And then you would add these two together, and this would become a 20. That's how you borrow. Why are you adding those two together? Because there's 11/11 in a whole, so you'd add 11/11 and 9/11 get 20/11. But most people just remember to add those two together. Okay, last one here. If we were subtracting this. If you were doing this by switching it to improper, you'd want to make this 9 an improper fraction too. How would you do that? You'd make it 9 over 1. You can always put a whole number over 1. Minus, 7 times 13, that's 91, plus 11, that's 102. See, that's not easy. Over 13. Now we need common denominators. Lowest common denominator of 1 and 13, well, it's just 13. So the second fraction is going to stay exactly the same. And I have to multiply this one by 13. Next problem. 13 times 9. That's not easy. 13 times 9 is 117. And now we're home free. Keep the denominator the same. 117 minus 102 is 15. And that's an acceptable answer. Or 13 goes into 15 one time, and there's 2 left over. Great. So how would you borrow with this? Okay, well, look, you could do 9 minus 7, but then there's no fraction here. So we want to be able to have a fraction here to subtract. So why don't we borrow from the 9? The 9's now going to become an 8. Okay, so I'm going to write it here 8, and I'm going to have a fraction. Remember, we're talking about 13ths here. So if I've borrowed 1, I have a whole 1. How many 13ths make up a whole 1? 13 13ths. Does that make sense? We had 9 right here, and I've made it 8 and 13 13ths. How come? Because 13 13ths is equal to 1, and if you add it on to the 8, you get 9. So if you get that step, the rest is very fast. I'm just going to rewrite the second one again. Subtract the big numbers. 8 minus 7 is 1. Subtract the fractions. 13 over 13 minus 11 over 13 is 2 over 13. It really is faster. We didn't have to do stuff like multiply 13 times 9 and subtract 117 and 102. Nice numbers, but you gotta know how to borrow. Alright, if you want more help with the borrowing, let me know. I can help you out. And have a great day. See ya!